up, I think.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Well, so I've been introduced. I'm a research fellow at Flori, lecturer at the University of Jos, field biologist, and usually when I'm in the field, in addition to looking at other things, I like to look at birds. So I study them both professionally and I like to have fun with them. So I tend to refer to myself as an ornithologist and a bird watcher. I will be talking today about the Nigerian Bird Atlas project and its role in increasing public engagement and conservation awareness, mostly through bird watching in Nigeria. So as a way of introduction and as a background, the Nigerian Bird Atlas project is an initiative of the AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute. So Aplori is the foremost institute dedicated to ornithology studies and conservation biology. We do this through capacity building, so through the MSc Conservation Biology program that I was a part of, and I know a lot of the members of the coalition have also been trained through the MSc program at Aplori. In addition to that, Aplori also facilitates conservation research in West Africa, mainly focused on birds. And quite recently, at the end of 2015, Aplori then took on this project, the Nigerian Bird Atlas project. And the idea behind this was just to promote citizen engagement, and to build an environmentally conscious society in Nigeria. And we thought that a bird atlas would be the best way to go about that. Obviously, birds being our focal organisms, we chose birds and bird watching as the tool upon which to promote public participation and to increase awareness about biodiversity conservation. And so the Nigerian Bird Atlas project came about at the end of 2015, of course, in partnership with NCF and with technical support from, the now defunct Animal Demography Unit. Now we're partnering with the Fitzpatrick Institute of African Ornithology in the University of Cape Town in South Africa. So of course, most of the technical support for this project came from that group in South Africa. But from the onset, the aim of this project was to update information on the distribution and natural history of birds in Nigeria. But one very key thing that we have wanted, from the start is to ensure that members of the public are a part of this project. And so volunteer members of the public are always encouraged and have always been the target group upon which this project was more or less going to run. And these members of the public are people generally who are enthusiastic about nature. And if you are interested in birds, you are welcome to be a part of this project. Of course, you can find some more details about this project on our website, which are listed at the bottom of the screen. But I'm sure there are quite a few people here who also love birds like I do, who study birds both professionally and also enjoy watching them. But there might be a few people here who might be wondering, why birds? So, of course, birds are very important components of biodiversity in general. Apart from being very, very good looking, most of them, so the aesthetic, the aesthetic characteristics of birds is one thing that makes them really, really attractive to people. But then they also have ecological importance, and they are very good indicators of environmental health. And so birds are an excellent indicator and an excellent focal species upon which to build and start a citizen science project. Of course, some of this importance of birds may include the pest control services that they provide. So birds, by preying, by feeding on insects, will help to control pests, even in agricultural fields. They also help in seed dispersal and pollination, and very importantly, also in nutrient cycling, predators, and some of them even serving as prey themselves. So birds are really important indicators of the environment. Their ability of flight means that they can very easily leave an environment if that environment is in trouble. And oftentimes, they are one of the first organisms that can also colonize new environments because of their ability of flight. And so all of this, make birds very important indicators of the environment. And so the Bird Atlas project, having that focus on birds for a citizen science project was also really, really important. So, like I said before, the Nigerian Bird Atlas project was launched at the end of 2015. And at its launch, there was a very small team that was put together to start this project. So there was a small team of 3 members. So that was Professor Ulf, Dr. Talad Sutende, and myself. And from the onset, we knew that this going to be a citizen science project meant that we had to go around and get as many people on board as possible. So one of the first things that we decided to do was to visit other colleagues. So of course, we already knew of people who were studying birds professionally, were enjoying looking at birds, also for fun. And so that was our first port of call. So the Aploria alumni who were now spread across the country. So the idea was to visit these guys and then introduce the idea of the project to them and get them to come on board with the project. And so it's interesting that what is Bird Atlas project actually started with a map of people. So we started first of all by putting together a map, of the Aploria alumni spread across the country. And so this guided the initial expeditions that we started. So the small NIBAB team that was put together, we then started traveling around the country to visit colleagues in the different parts of Nigeria to introduce the idea of an Atlas project to them. Of course, we knew that this network of Aploria alumni already having the skills, for bird identification and ornithology were going to be the backbone upon which we're going to build the Bird Atlas project. So a map of people was the first thing that we actually came up with. And the idea was if we visit those guys, we introduce the idea of the Bird Atlas to them. But then we knew that we wanted citizen scientists to be a part of this. So the citizen scientist is anybody who has an interest in natural science or in environmental studies. You don't have to be a professional. All you need is interest. And then you can participate in activities that may be considered as environmental research or conservation research. So the Nigerian citizen scientist is more or less family and friends. And so the idea to visit the trained ornithologists or the Aploria alumni was then to build a community of citizen scientists around these people. And we chose to do this through what we call bird clubs now. And the bird clubs were then going to have somebody who was skilled, so a trained ornithologist, and then anybody who is enthusiastic about nature, about birds, wants to learn about birds, you can join this club. And the idea was that in the bird club, you can have people who are interested but who are currently lacking the skills to learn from the people who are skilled. And so there's skills transfer from the trained ornithologist to the citizen scientist. And then, of course, we then have an audience to continue to expand the idea of a citizen science project to develop a bird atlas for Nigeria. So that was the idea of the bird clubs. Now, in addition to creating the platform for skills transfer, there was also the idea from the beginning that it was interesting. It would be more interesting for people if they are going to be part of a community. And usually one thing that happens in communities like this is reciprocal motivation. So people motivating one another and then going out. So the idea of social bird clubs was really something that we wanted from the beginning. And of course, there were the benefits for quality control of the data that was going to be collected. So if you have somebody who is skilled, who is knowledgeable about birds, going out with someone who is still learning, then the person who is skilled can ensure that the data that comes into the database is actually the correct information. So that was the idea of the bird clubs. But then I often like to say, mention this, that from the start, bird clubs are not an idea that started with the Bird Atlas project. So prior to the Bird Atlas project, there was already the Lekki Bird Club, which NCF continues to organize. and the Ibadan Bird Club again, which was launched and started by NCF in Ibadan. So these two bird clubs predate the Bird Atlas project. And so the idea of a bird club was not entirely new. And but then the interesting thing is, prior to the Bird Atlas project, we had just these two bird clubs, and I think also before that time, most of these clubs were largely dominated by expats. So people coming from other parts of the world working in Nigeria who already had a culture of bird watching. So bird clubs with indigenous bird watchers were not really many before we started the Bird Atlas project. But then once we started the Bird Atlas project, we started with a few bird clubs, and this began to increase and spread around the country. So most of these bird clubs, again, like I had said before, were centered around most of our alumni who were more or less going to provide the bird identification skills for the nature enthusiasts that were joining these clubs. And the idea is if we have bird clubs all around the country, then this very quickly facilitates data collection in the wider coverage across the country. So these are just a few examples of some of the bird clubs that have now been started since the Bird Atlas project was launched at the end of 2015. And so from just two bird clubs before we started, now there are over 23 bird clubs around Nigeria. And there are still a few areas where we are still lacking bird clubs and we would like to start bird clubs. And of course, some of these bird clubs are not as active as others, but the idea is beginning to catch on and it's all, beginning to spread around the country. But one of the most interesting things that has happened with the Bird Atlas project, and especially from the bird clubs, is what I always like to talk about as the spark that actually ensured that this project has become quite a sustainable project. So the Ibadan Bird Club, with Wale as the coordinator, so Wale, who is very familiar to all of you, so our able secretary, coordinates the Ibadan Bird Club. And out of the Ibadan Bird Club grew the Southwest Atlas team. And the Southwest Atlas team are, like a really enthusiastic group of atlasers, citizen scientists that, the job they have done is really remarkable. The Southwest Atlas team was formed in August 2016. And these were mainly people who had, at one point or the other passed through the Ibadan Bird Club. Some of them studied at UI and then eventually were spreading around the region. And so they came together. I think the first Southwest Atlas team expedition was to Ekiti. And as you can see in the image up there. And very quickly, this became something that happened monthly with this enthusiastic guys going out to Atlas. And you can see here that, in the short period that the Southwest Atlas team has been operating, you can see the huge impact that has been going on with the Bird Atlas project. So these are pentats that have been atlased by members of the Southwest Atlas teams in the Southwest region. So this is a really remarkable happening, something that very quickly gave us ideas, to continue to promote atlasing and to continue to form more social groups around this bird watching activity for the Atlas project. And so from the Southwest Atlas team, the ideas from the Southwest Atlas team led to the creation of another Atlas team in the north called the Arewa Atlas team. So the Arewa Atlas team started in January 2015 and in very similar fashion. So bird watchers, nature enthusiasts based in the north were organized under this umbrella of the Arewa Atlas team. And again, you can very quickly see how much has been atlased and how much of Nigeria has already been surveyed under the Bird Atlas project since the Arewa Atlas team came on board. So this is again a very remarkable happening with the Bird Atlas project, mainly driven by nature enthusiasts and citizen scientists in Nigeria. So again, learning from all of this, we realized that a lot of people continue to be interested and would like to participate. but quite a few of them felt like they were not really skilled or were not confident in their bird identification skills to contribute or participate in the Atlas project. And so, with funding from the National Geographic Society, we organized trainings for nature enthusiasts who were looking to participate but wanted to develop their bird ID skills. So once we organized that field course, it was for 30 days. We had two courses, one in the north, one in the south. So each of these courses had 15 participants. So 30 participants were trained. And during that workshop, we talked about all of the progress that the Atlas had been making, and especially the contributions of the Southwest Atlas team and the Arewa Atlas team. And so a group of people from the Southeast and the South-South were challenged, hearing about the Southwest Atlas team and the Arewa Atlas team. And so at the end of the field course, we then had another team come together to form what we call CESAT, so the Southeast South Atlas team. So CESAT are operating in this region, and CESAT was formed in June of 2019. And they have also very quickly been making immense contributions to the Atlas project. So you would realize now that I'm talking about the Bird Atlas project, but then I have been talking a lot more about the people. And for me, that is actually the key thing that I like to emphasize every time that I get the opportunity to talk about the Bird Atlas project. Of course, it is important, and from the beginning, we wanted to update information about the distribution and natural history of birds in Nigeria. But then, very vitally, we also wanted citizens to participate in this, because the main goal, or the ultimate goal, was actually to increase public participation in biodiversity conservation in Nigeria. And so all of the Atlas teams, the bird clubs, and the people that are participating in this project are actually, for me, the key things that I would like to highlight. But I would also just like to show you some of the progress that has been made. So, so far, since 2015, when the project launched, up to date, we have recorded up to 887 bird species. So out of Nigeria's over 900 species, about 887 of these have so far been recorded as part of the Bird Atlas project. And from the small team of 3 people that started at the end of 2015, now over 202 active atlasers are part of this project. So the coverage has now gone to about 2,500, over 2,500 pentats have so far been atlased. So that's more than 25% of the total number of pentats that we require for the complete coverage of Nigeria. So if I would say so myself, this is quite an impressive journey, and most especially very impressive engagement from members of the public. And I also like to highlight here that the Bird Atlas project maintains a Facebook group, and there are close to 5,000 members of this group. Of course, not all of these people are bird watching, but as members of this group, they are beginning to participate in all of the discussions around birds and around biodiversity conservation. And again, I'd like to emphasize that that is actually the key thing if we are going to get the public and other people interested in the same things that we're all passionate about, that we're all looking to conserve. So this following is something that I think is really important, and we continue to provide information to enlighten people or to create awareness about the importance of biodiversity and why we need to conserve biodiversity. And you would also see that these things continue to generate interest. And so you find people from going to bird clubs to look at birds, they begin to look at other things as well. So they look at plants, they look at butterflies, look at other insects, and ultimately they might begin to ask questions about the environment. So what is actually a project that is seeking to update information about the distribution of birds becomes something that creates awareness about the state of our environment, the health of the environment, and what people can do for the conservation of biodiversity in Nigeria. So Yes, this is about the Nigerian Bird Atlas project. But again, I would just very quickly like to share some of the extended impacts of what we're doing in Nigeria has been having on the West African sub-region. So with partners from Sierra Leone, some of whom have also come to study at the Plori, the idea of a Sierra Leone Bird Atlas project was also mooted, and there was a workshop to help them to get going with atlasing in Sierra Leone. And again, in Liberia, in similar fashion, an Plori alumni going back to Liberia is organizing the Liberian Bird Atlas project as well. There's also the Ghana Bird Atlas that was launched after we had a virtual workshop early this year during the corona virus lockdown. And we just recently, so just last week, had another workshop to help colleagues in Cameroon to also launch a Bird Atlas project. So, of course, what we are doing in Nigeria is beginning to have, impact even outside our borders, and I think that is really, really impressive. So, like I keep telling people, birds are just a window to nature. You go out looking for birds, you begin to look for other things, and this is contributing in no small way to increase awareness about biodiversity issues, and also getting more and more people to participate in any way that they can for biodiversity conservation in Nigeria. So, of course, using the citizen science framework, which embraces all interests, I think this is something that has become a very valuable tool for increasing, public engagement and awareness for biodiversity conservation. So over the 4 to 5 years that the Bird Atlas has been running, some of the lessons that we have learned is that it is really important, to organize and identify any existing community that there is with shared interests. And in this case, this community is now organized around people who have a shared interest for birds, and that cohesion between this group, especially through the bird club strategy, has been helping, to get people to begin to look not only at birds but other components of nature. And it's really amazing, from seminars and public talks and things that the coalition is doing, like this series of talks that are going on. It's really important, how much information goes out there and how much can be organized through forums like this. And we have also enjoyed this. So seminars and public talks were very valuable for us to introduce the idea. And then the social media platforms that we continue to use are also very valuable. And so something like what we are doing right now is also very important. And we continue to create opportunities for people to be trained, because you would find that there are lots of people who are interested in participating in biodiversity conservation, but then they kind of feel like we're not skilled enough, or, I can't do this. I would like to be a part of this, but I can't do this. So creating opportunities for training are very, very important. And we found out also to be very useful for us. The few opportunities that we have had to organize training programs, both formal and informal programs, to train people have yielded lots of results for us. And so this is also something that I think is very important. And even as a coalition, we can create opportunities for training people who might be interested in participating in biodiversity conservation in Nigeria. Of course, funding remains a very important aspect of everything that we do for biodiversity conservation, because we need funds to do that. So good fundraising, is something that has been important even for us for the Bird Atlas project. So with that, I would like to invite those who are not yet members of any bird club, but would like to participate in the Nigerian Bird Atlas project, to join the bird club and also get atlasing. You can find more details about the project on the Facebook group, on the link there. You can also follow us on Twitter to get some more information about the project at Bird Nigeria, and then the website, nibab.ng. So with that, I would like to acknowledge all of our country funders, and I want to thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ivande, for the educative talk.